To you by Hitachi.
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC TV18. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.
Excellence is doing ordinary things extraordinarily. With this intrinsic belief, Trend Micro continues to excel and be the world's largest pure-play security provider and the global cloud security leader to set the pace for the IT security industry by delivering simple, integrated solutions that elegantly solve the most pressing security challenges.
There is a battle raging, one that many don't even realize exists. A fight in which anyone can be the victim and anyone can be the aggressor. It can be motivated by politics, by ideals, or simply by financial gain. Just recently a large company was targeted, and due to one of these attacks, ended up more than $60 million worse off. Targeted attacks are a reality. These types of cyber attack are becoming more frequent, costing companies hundreds of thousands of dollars. Traditional security simply can't keep up. Criminals can test their attacks to the point of invisibility and use legitimate compromised accounts to stay under the radar once inside a network. Effective security should operate on the assumption that breach will happen. Effective security should be your eyes and ears throughout the network, enabling you to detect and contain every aspect of a targeted intrusion. In one recent survey, more than 70% of respondents felt that their own organization's security activities were insufficient to cope with such an eventuality. Don't be a victim.
Excellence thrives on foresight and the vision to achieve brilliance. And 2020 Vision presented 5 inspiring achievers to essay their journey to success and mark a vision for the future. First up was television anchor and comedian Cyrus Brocha relaying his amusing walk to fame.
Well, it all happened when I was about 14. There was this ad in the paper from a lady called Pearl Padamsee. I don't know if you remember her, famous theatre director. So, so I went to meet Pearl, and Pearl is 4 foot 10 inches tall. And I remember I rang the bell, and my father had told me, please make an impression, whatever happens, so that, they remember you, otherwise it's a waste of time doing an audition. So the door opened, there was nobody there, I didn't see anyone, I walked, and I fell over her because she's that short. And next thing I know, she was screaming at me, shouting at me, and I basically got the part because everybody else was over age, and I was the only 14-year-old, the others were 17, 18. And I think Pearl was most impressed about that, and secondly, because I fell on her, and she fell down, so she wouldn't forget me, for the rest of her life. So that was how I got into English theatre, which was very Parsi at that point and very la-di-da, and, everybody spoke with slightly clipped accents. I don't know how that happened. They would talk normally to Jairam, chai dena, and then they go on stage and say, I'd like to say, and it just changes completely. And the fact is that doing theatre in Bombay exposed me in the 80s and 90s to little things that were coming up as this globalization happened. I must thank Narasimha Rao, the man who I think looks like Marilyn Monroe. He has the same pout, and he had the same dot here as well. So I got into the theatre, and because of that, you guys remember in 1993, we had this big radio boom. I was one of the guys who was on Radio 93 by mistake again. Don't ask me how that happened. And I did a show called the Polo Dial-In Show, which was an interactive show where people would call up and tell their problems. And that's when I realized that 93% of India, like Mr. Justice Kaju said, is a bunch of morons. It's absolutely correct. There's no lies. I can't lie anymore about this. Because people would call up at 8 in the morning, and a man would call up, mostly men. They'd call up and they'd say things like, hello, 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 hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Go on. Hello, 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 hello. Can you hear me? Hello, hello. And I was told, keep it to 3 minutes. 1 minute would be just this. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. And from there we got selected and, somebody came, started talking to you. And then this MTV thing happened. I started working on MTV. We did this show called MTV Bakra, which basically, I suppose, helped us reach all kinds of people, because before that it was all these song and fashion sort of shows, and shows like Bakra were the first reality shows. But all the opportunities basically came from that moment when I went and met Pearl Padamsee. So I don't know what other stories you're going to hear tonight, but I think everybody will have that moment where their life sort of goes in one path. I could have been a lawyer. I should have been a lawyer, and dressed like this and in a room like this, I really feel I should have been a lawyer today. But unfortunately, I went for one audition. I fell over the director, and 400 years later, this is my story. So I won't bore you with anything more. Thank you so much for coming here. And the next lot of speakers are going to give you stories which will inspire you. Mine was just what we call the feeler. Thank you. Good evening.
Passion for gaming fueled his pursuit for excellence, as the father of the Indian gaming industry spoke of turning an unorthodox profession into a sporting benchmark.
We are going to talk about something which is close to my heart, of what is really going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years when it comes to technology, when it comes to disrupting a lot of things which we are seeing on a day-to-day basis. And I wanted to start with my most favorite subject, which is education, and what's really happening there. And today, as we know, that there are two schools of thought of education. One is about education, which we all do, which is about schools, and one is about learning. And I think there is going to be a huge shift between this. And to give you one fundamental difference between these two words, because a lot of people think these two words are the same, in my opinion, education is what people do to you, and learning is what you do to yourself. And I think that's really the generation of today. And I don't know, something was wrongly wired in my brain. When I was in school, I was all about learning. When my, other kids in school, in class were learning, Hindi and algebra and whatever else, I used to spend time programming computer games. The other thing which I'm also excited about is about passion and person. And if you look at all the achievers over here, or all the people who are trying to do something different, the most important thing is they're not doing this because they wanted to be someone. It's doing it because they were following their passion. India Games not only became the market leader of the games business in India, we got almost a 60% market share. And this one simple business which people said was a stupid idea, nobody's going to play games, in 2012, we managed to sell the company to Disney for about $100 million. So that's how my journey of passion with gaming, where all I wanted to do was make other people play games, got excited, got started, and then it went to a completely different realm of this. The whole idea of what is an asset is going to change. For a lot of us, we say our asset is, the wealth we have created, but your asset is not your wealth, your asset is health. And I think that really becomes the center stage of what we are trying to do. Thank you.
अगर आप घर से बाहर हैं, आउटडोर्स, तो कैसे ढूंढेंगे प्रॉपर्टी? पेश है खोजी डॉग्स, बिकाऊ प्रॉपर्टी सूंघ निकालने में एक्सपर्ट जॉनी, टॉमी, रॉक्सी, स्मेली।
मैजिक ब्रिक्स ऐप अपने मोबाइल पे डाउनलोड कीजिए और ढूंढिए प्रॉपर्टी अपने आसपास, कहीं भी, कभी भी। magicbricks.com। प्रॉपर्टी सही मिलेगी यहीं।
When Narendra Modi took office, he promised to change the face of the nation. Has he done enough in his first 100 days?
We have a government which has not faltered once in terms of policy.
Nothing has happened about let's say the food subsidies.
The financial markets have clearly moved up the curve.
There is no timeline as far as the GST is concerned. There is no clarity on what they want to do with the DTC.
Mr. Modi has been elected on a 5-year view, and it's going to take time for him, to implement policies and change policies.
Catch the most extensive business analysis of 100 days of the Modi government with India's biggest thought leaders and policymakers. Only on CNBC TV 18. Follow the leader. ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present the India Healthcare Awards 2014. Nominate your hospital today.
Presented by ICICI Lombard Health Insurance. Journal partner, The Indian Practitioner. Exclusive media partner, Medgate. Magazine partner, Drug Today Medical Times. And Healthcare Executive. On-ground partner, Inox.
Trend Micro's Rick Ferguson revealed his vision to combat looming threats to the internet and securing the cloud at large.
The 2020 vision that you're seeing, the logos and the theme for this event, where that actually originated from was a project that Trend Micro were involved in with Europol, which is the European equivalent or partner organization with Interpol. And what we were trying to do was to anticipate the next, at the time, almost decade of technological advancement, what that would mean for individuals, what that would mean for businesses, governments, society in general, and also to anticipate the crime that may arise and the criminal opportunities that may arise as a result of those technological and societal changes. And to try and get involved parties, interested parties, or even actually probably more importantly, uninterested parties, to begin thinking about security as being something which is key to their business model. This research project resulted in actually a 26-page white paper at the end of the day, which was a pretty hefty document, a pretty weighty tome. Some of the predictions that we came up with, I think, are already coming true, which has been really gratifying. And some of them we can definitely see right over the horizon. The kind of world we were talking about was, we were talking about a world where the heads-up display has become absolutely ubiquitous. Obviously, we've seen the commercial release already now of Google Glass. We know there are going to be competitors from Microsoft, from Samsung, and from lots of other niche players. And we predicted, certainly by 2020, with the trend for miniaturization, we wouldn't be talking about Google Glass, but we'd be talking about Google Contact Lens. And then earlier this year, Google released the news about their patent for a contact lens, which was going to monitor glucose levels, but also be connected to the Internet of Things as a wearable device. We predicted a world where cloud services and instantaneous translation began to break down barriers between countries, where telepresence and beaming and remote presence brings people from foreign countries closer together, revolutionizing, for example, the world of online dating. You don't actually have to meet the person or even speak the same language to go out on your first date. What we envisioned with a cloud-enabled future were people pooling their skills, people globally pooling their skills in smaller online cloud collectives. We thought about another, I think, very interesting concept for business. The concept of cyber insurance by 2020 will be everywhere. I mean, businesses are already taking out fairly substantial cyber insurance policies, cyber risk insurance policies for many different purposes. And we thought by 2020 that would be absolutely everywhere. So this concept of a security score, as a business you can begin to select your partners and say, I'm only going to do business with people who score a 4 or a 5 on my 5-point scale or on the national 5-point scale. It makes people aspire to greater security, and it helps you lift up your level of security with third parties. On a nation-state level, we said maybe we'll begin to see that being applied to countries. Countries already have their credit score rating, so why not have a cybersecurity rating for countries? How secure is this country to do business in? Should I be investing in India? What's the infrastructure like? What's the legislation and regulation like? What's the rate of compliance with that legislation? You know, we also begin now to see the balkanization of the internet, the fragmentation of the internet, with all of the Snowden revelations, the stuff around the activity of NSA, and I have to say GCHQ in the UK as well. And I'm sure, realistically, every other major government on the planet, they just didn't get busted yet. One of the things that will happen, regardless of how far that balkanization goes, is that increasingly telecommunications and internet infrastructure will become classified as critical national infrastructure, which means that it will remain in private hands, but those private hands will become increasingly tools of governance and tools of government. Because if you picture the situation today, for example, between Russia and the Ukraine, and all of the sanctions that other countries globally are applying on Russia right now, those sanctions focus on individuals, they focus on travel, finance, they're beginning to focus on industrial sectors, and they're having a desired effect. Think about sanctions in the year 2020, which are focusing on closing down areas of cyberspace to one particular nation. Think about the effect that that would have on a country's ability to do business in a hyper-connected world. Because Vishal was talking about one of the primary tools and purposes being education, and I couldn't agree more. particularly when it comes to security. Most people are absolutely unaware of the risks. That's why people will be first adopters, while they'll be more concerned with, buying the wearable technology, buying the internet-connected door lock for their home that they can unlock remotely, buying and investing, being the first to invest. But the companies that are building this stuff, they're also not interested in security. They're interested in being first to market, getting the product out there, capturing the market, building the market, making the brand. So we wanted to do our bit for educating business, entrepreneurs, innovators, governments, and people who are still in school right now, to get them to think about the security implications of adoption, of use, and of creation of these kinds of technologies. What we did was we came up with a 9-episode web science fiction thriller series. Each episode was about 4 minutes long. I'm going to show you the trailer right now so you get a flavor of the kind of thing we did. Critical national infrastructure, cloud computing, the Internet of Things, hackable medical devices, Google Glass, living through the web. New technologies always present new opportunities, but not just for the regular user, for criminals as well. Project 2020 was designed to bring together thought leaders from around the world to consider the opportunities and the challenges posed by this new technology, and to give constructive advice to try and face up to possible futures. All 9 episodes are now up there and available. I hope that as a result of seeing the video, you'll be inspired to read the white paper. And I think the hope of all of us at Trend Micro, if you're involved in enterprise, if you're involved in government, if you're involved in innovation, if you're an entrepreneur, that it makes you think twice, it makes you embed security into everything that you do, instead of trying to expect someone to bolt it on for you afterwards. Because the connected future is the future of all of us, and we all have a stake in protecting ourselves and each other. Thank you very much.
The government has been very, very receptive to ideas, and more than ideas, ways things can be progressed. It's not just about cutting the rate, it's making the cost of ownership for the client lower. Sure. I see it as a very serendipitous moment in terms of our strategy and investments. So we're vested, we are invested.
Project Management Institute presents Project Management National Conference 2014. Bringing together visionaries, industry leaders, policymakers, thought leaders, and project management champions to exchange ideas on the challenges and emerging trends in the project management profession. To register, log on to www.pmi.org.in this September in Hyderabad. CNBC TV 18 now brings you the greatest investment opportunity. 3 books that'll change your relationship with money. 16 personal finance principles every investor should know. A book that introduces the basics of money and investments. How to be your own financial planner in 10 steps. Your guide to wealth without the complex formulas. And 11 principles to achieve financial freedom. A book that'll empower your wealth creation. Master your financial life. SMS CD Master to 51818 or mail us at cd@network18online.com.
You all are going to get butchered. Renowned corporate firms come together to display their culinary skills in a one-of-a-kind tug-of-war in a kitchen.
We've restricted it to corporates because it involves teams.
What we're going to be looking at is a completely different framework than just purely the cooking part of it.
I would expect you to perfect this.
Catch Kitchen Wars at these times only on CNBC TV 18. Presented by Whirlpool Proton World Series Refrigerator with 6 Sense Active Fresh technology. A new standard in freshness. Whirlpool, designed to delight. living and breathing movies. This Southern siren gave a glimpse into her inspirational journey from a girl next door to an acclaimed movie star.
Acting for me is life, and life is acting. Life is amalgamation of all the people you meet, all that you learn in your conscious and your subconscious mind. And every experience you live, what you make out of those experiences is life. And when you put all those experiences in a character and live someone else's life with your soul, with your flavor, with your imagination, that is acting. Life prepares me for acting, and acting teaches me about life. I remember the first time I was on a film set, my director told me, "Why are you so nervous? Just be yourself. You're just playing yourself." And yet I've spent years just trying to be myself and just trying to be natural in front of the camera. When I was growing up, my mother told me, dream big. I learned dance from Guru Shobna Narayan in Delhi, and just rehearsing ta thai thai tat, a thai thai tat for years and for hours inspired me to keep learning. And I see people doing simple, ordinary things in an extraordinary way. That inspires me. Like I said, my dad being an engineer with BHL and my mom a chemistry teacher, I decided to do something that was not expected out of me. I bunked LSR college where I was studying, took a flight to Hyderabad, auditioned for a part, and became an actor. Had I not taken that risk, had I not taken that chance and not auditioned for that part, I would have never known that I have the capacity to act. I was not trained as an actor, but I just took that leap of faith. Over the years, I've been trying to keep that leap of faith, that desire, that adventure in me alive. I am always learning to fall in love with me, and that's an ongoing love affair that I have with myself. And I think it's very important, no matter what profession you are in, no matter what you're doing, just to keep falling in love with yourself and just to keep exploring yourself. That, I feel, is the most important thing. My biggest teacher is film set. And my exam is my flops and my hits. And my life is in my films. Every flop teaches you a lot more about cinema, because it teaches you to get back. It teaches you to understand yourself even better. Indian cinema is going everywhere and everywhere. I just hope that I keep working in cinema, keep inspiring, keep doing something connected with cinema, keep innovating myself, and keep finding myself through acting. Thank you.
Last but not the least, this strong-willed banker turned politician made a persuasive pitch for her vision for an exemplary society.
I led a very uncrazy, very simple, very straightforward life. And then in 2008, I had my tripping moment, you know, the moment that Cyrus described, which bent my reality. And that was the 26/11 attacks on our city. And as I was sitting and watching TV, the thought came to me that as Indians, we are very good critics. We are very good analysts. We have all the solutions to the world's problems. But at that moment, I felt that it was time for me personally to stop being a critic and an analyst and to step forward and do something. And what I chose to do at that time was considered by most people as being very crazy. I decided to stand for elections in the Lok Sabha from South Mumbai as an independent candidate. It was really a defining period for me in my life. What it did was it gave me a very, very good understanding of our city. Of course, I lost that election and I went back to my job. But for me, it was the start of a journey, a mental journey and a physical journey. I said to myself, all right, I fought this election, but had I been elected, actually what would I have done? And so in 2013, I decided to step down from my job and enter politics as a full-time thing. You know, people would say, you're doing this on a part-time thing. And I said, no, you're not doing it on a part-time thing. How can you be a full-time politician? I mean, you know, between elections, what are you going to do? And I found what one could do. One could sit there and learn and find solutions. During the course of that period, the option was binary. I didn't want to join any of the large political parties. So the question was, should I stand again as an independent or should I join someone else? And at a meeting like this, in May of 2013, Ashish, my husband, and I met Arvind Kejriwal. You may agree with me that the existence of AAP has changed the political dialogue in our country by bringing to the table issues that are important if our country is to progress. The issues of corruption, the issues of good governance, the issues of crony capitalism, which weren't on the political landscape before this party came into being. We headed into 2014, where I fought the Lok Sabha election once again. I made Mumbai's Portlands the central plank of my agenda. And this is actually Mumbai's best kept secret and possibly our darkest secret. Then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1980 said, the non-operational parts of Mumbai port will be given back to the city of Mumbai to decongest the city. Of course, it helps that one of my opponents was then Ministry of Shipping. It helps that the other of my opponents was the MLA for that area. And so I told them, I said, listen guys, one of us is going to win. Please, here are the facts and figures, let's work on it. Of course, that didn't happen. I lost the election. But what I'm delighted to say is I won my campaign. Because a few months after, I mean, of course, the election results were declared on 16th of May. And on the 18th of May, I started work as I had promised on the Portland. So we were hammering away at it through social media, etc. And then the Minister of Shipping, the Honorable Minister of Shipping, a few months later said, we are going to work on the Portlands. And as I end, at this point, I would like to say to you, this is really not about my story. This is about our collective story as Mumbaikars. The story of what you want your children's lives to be. And let that shape our vision for Mumbai. Thank you very much.
Begum, Taj Mahal